Dear guests, please accept our greetings, take your seats now, and please turn your microphones off. We are, as the members of IZMIR Democracy University ELT Student Club, proudly hosting our 12th online session on Going Mobile in the Language Classroom by Dr. CEYHUN from UFUK University.
Hi, now we will give you some brief information about the session. My name is ALEYNA ABUŞKA from ELT department at IZMIR Democracy University. The moderator is Dr. NURDAN, who is also our academic advisor at ELT department. The session is about 20 or 25 minutes long, and the QA sessions will be held by QA managers, me and DENİZ. You may prefer to write your questions. Don't worry, we'll be checking chat box, or you may use your mics if eligible. And please do not forget that at the end of the session, we will take our family photo as always. Now, we would like to kindly invite Dr. NURDAN to start off the 12th session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear students, DİNÇ and ALEYNA ABUŞKA, who are going to be our Q&A managers for today. And I feel very happy and excited because one of my colleagues from UFUK University, who is actually Dr. CEYHUN is also one of my PhD guys at Hacettepe University. So I really feel excited and so much happy to host you here for our 12th session of ELT ELT e-talk series. So being a part of this, I feel happy to host you so that we can see how we can go mobile in our language classrooms. I think special concern will be on foreign language classrooms. So let me give the stage to my dear friend, my dear colleague, Dr. CEYHUN from UFUK University to present his speech for today. Thank you.
NURDAN, Dr. KAVAKLI, thank you very much for this nice invitation. Thanks for having me at the IDU ELT Talks. Today I'm going to talk about mobile device integration in the classrooms and maybe some part out of the classrooms. Let me just share my screen with you guys first. So we go screen share, and then this one, we save it. We say share. Are you able to see my screen? Good. All right, welcome back then to our session. Let me just close the screen. All right, I'm going to talk about going mobile in the language classroom. So let me just show you a brief outline of the things that I would like to deal today. So I'm going to start with a short introduction, things to consider when using mobile devices in the classroom, some built-in functions that are already available and which might be utilized in the language classroom for learning and teaching purposes, some third-party applications, which most of us do actually have on our mobile phones right now, using mobile devices for language learning, some discussion starters, form of activities for vocabulary and grammar, for reading and writing, and for listening and speaking. And then I will just talk about some learner and teaching training requirements and finish off with some best practices and final thoughts. So first of all, I would like to start with this quotation. To be maximally effective, teachers need to be more than designers or collectors of material. They need to become designers of learning experiences for their students, right? It was stated by Hergram. So I believe that language teaching is a form of designing a learning experience. So today I'm going to promote you the use of mobile devices in this design, right? That I'm trying to convince you that the use of mobile devices is also an effective way of carrying out our teaching profession. Now, as we should all agree, mobile devices are an integral part of our modern life. We carry them all around. They're always with us. So it's part of our real world. We use them to connect with the world, with our family, with our social networks and everything. But unfortunately, when we go into the classroom, students are expected to turn their mobile phones off. Well, most advocates of modern language teaching say that language learning is a social event, so why not bring this social side of our modern lives into the classroom? Well, some scholars think that mobile devices cause some distractions and they decrease the attention of the students. Besides, some say that we are used to teaching in the way that we are taught, so it was actually evident when I was learning language. And sometimes, even though teachers do use them in their modern daily lives, this does not translate into the classroom. And besides, if you have a quick, if you Google the wealth of applications that are available to us, you can see that there are a great number of applications that we can actually integrate in our teaching. And sometimes the number of or the variety of applications scare teachers, all right? Plus, even though I do not agree with this idea, some scholars think that it is a threat to the dominant the dominant role of the teachers in the classroom. But personally, I don't believe that teachers should be dominant in the classroom, because 21st century language teaching and learning, it posits that the learning should be student-centered mostly. There are things that we need to consider before actually using mobile devices in our classrooms. The first thing is whether or not there are some micro or macro policies regarding student mobile use in the class. If there are some policies that prohibit the use of such device in the classroom, then we might need to go to the administration and ask for some permission. The second point is access to the device. Right? We usually have some mixed classrooms, and the wealth status of our students are not the same. So some might have some mobile phones with themselves in the classroom, but some might not. In cases where this happens, we might explore ways in which we can ask students to share their devices with each other. The next one is internet access. Well, all of the smartphones nowadays allow for internet access on the device. So we have to make sure that there is a readily available internet access in the classroom, and that the Wi-Fi network is reliable. Otherwise, we will encounter major problems when conducting some mobile activities in the classroom. And as a last point, you should also consider some curricular and testing requirements. If they dictate us to not use certain things in the classroom, then again, we might have some administrative difficulties. We should again consult our directors and try to find a way to introduce these technologies in the classroom setting. Now, I'm going to move on to some built-in functions which are available on all smartphones actually. One is note-taking. All of the smartphones nowadays have a note-taking function. So let me show you. This is a piece of paper, and we have a digital paper on our mobile device as well, right? So you can do some writing activities by asking students to take some notes on their mobile devices. For example, sometimes in my classes, students forget their notebooks and they don't have any spare papers with them. So I actually asked them to take some notes on their mobile phones, which they actually do. The second feature is a digital voice service. You can record, playback, and edit actually. You can ask students to record their voices, play them back, listen to them, so that they can actually notice maybe some errors, the things that they do good, all right, and use it as the tool in a classroom. Text messaging is another feature that is already available in all the smartphones. You can ask your students to create short dialogues. You don't need to write them on a piece of paper or in their notebooks. They can actually text each other and create a dialogue with it. Email is another option. Again, it provides both provides for both reading and writing. For example, you can ask your students to complain about something like a device that they have bought. Ask them to actually write a complaint to the company, and the company will obviously report back. So in this way, they can have a nice and authentic reading and writing activity. Web browsing is another thing. Sometimes, especially in my speaking classes, we're using a commercial book, and it's usually the case that they don't like the unit, or they see that the theme of the topic of the unit is not of interest to them. If students have an interest in something, they tend to not know it. So in those cases, I actually ask them to browse some information on the internet, because after assigning them with the activity, I give them some time to prepare. And during that time period, they actually browse on the web, get some information about it, get some background knowledge, and share it with us. We also have a still and video camera option. You can take still pictures in the classroom, reflect it on the screen, and then ask students to comment about it. We can capture videos in and outside the classroom, bring them into the classroom, and use them as some starters. MP3 players are also among the built-in functions, and it can allow for some listening practice. Video viewing, as you all know, it has dual modality, so there's also picture and voice. So again, it's a nice way of conducting some listening with some picture cues, some moving picture cues. Video calling is also possible in all smartphones. As we're doing it right now, I can ask Dr. KAVAKLI to be a guest in my classroom and have a chat with my students. Maybe one day we'll do it.
Of course.
Let's have a look at the third-party applications. There are many applications on both iOS and Android, right? For example, I believe that most of you have a Facebook and Twitter already downloaded on your mobile phones. You can use Facebook and Twitter for reading and writing practice, even though there are some limitations in so as to the characters that you can write. There are some video conferencing tools, as you know, like Skype and Google Hangouts. You can, again, create some interactive activities with people outside of the classroom. And there are also some messaging tools, as you all know, like Snapchat, Instagram, or WhatsApp. Again, these can be used in the classroom. Instagram can be used to show some pictures. Snapchat, you can load some pictures of Snapchat, ask your students to have a look at them, and then comment on them. There are also some journaling applications like Penzu and Journey, which you can ask students to, for example, write about their experiences at the end of the classroom. As you might remember from your methodology classes, some of the methodologies or some of the methods advocate that or give great emphasis on student feelings. So at the end of certain sessions, you might spare a few minutes and ask your students to share their ideas about the session, how they felt about it, and write them in their journals. There are also video streaming applications like YouTube, again, which provide a wealth of resources that you can use in the classroom in the form of videos, and which also provide the opportunity to actually they provide the opportunity for hearing native speakers speak with different dialects, obviously. The most striking feature of these applications, the third-party applications, is that they're not actually developed for language learning purposes, but they have a potential, and it's up to the teacher to use them in an effective way, so that they can foster or improve the learning of the students, right? Another good side of it is that students are familiar with all of these. They already have them on their mobile devices. They use them daily, but they are not actually using them for learning purposes. So by showing them that they can also be utilized as educational or learning tools, you might as well open them a new, let me say, a new screen or a new world in which they can use their foreign language and improve in time, right? Because we're always saying that we have a limited classroom period, like 40 minutes or 50 minutes. And these devices or these applications actually give us or provide us with an extended classroom and opportunity to use language. And especially if we do use them in our real life for to produce language orally or in a written form, they do actually improve us, right? What else? There are also some, for example, we have Foursquare, all right? Usually I use it to search for some restaurants. If I go to places that I do not know, you can actually ask your students to search a specific area to look for some restaurants and have a small discussion about which restaurant to go to, right? Or you can ask them to download an application about a railway line and ask them to plan a railway trip, right? Or if they can download or have applications like Visit a City or the Michelin Travel Guide, all right? These applications actually are designed to plan trips, but again, we can bring this real-life experience into the classroom and ask them to prepare a trip in groups, all right, discussing where to go and how to go, and prepare a nice journey plan, right? These are all things, or some of the things that you can do with some third-party applications. There are also some applications that are designed specifically for language learning, right? Like Facebooks, one of them is English Facebooks, right? You can ask your students to extract some phrases from this application and then use them to create a dialogue, for example. There is the Duolingo and the Babel. You can assign some homework from these applications, or if you have time in class, if you have spare time, you can actually ask them to, for example, finish one level in, for example, Duolingo on the topic that's, or on the function of language that's being covered that week. There are flashcard apps like Quizlet, flashcards, or Anki app, or Tiny Cards, which can also be used for vocabulary development. There are also some polling applications where you can ask your students some questions. They can write some comments, short comments, or pick among the options. And another interesting activity to carry out by such apps is you can actually ask your students to download a specific app without giving them any training or any idea about the application, and ask them to try it out and report about it, about its uses. And then maybe you can ask them to prepare a presentation on it or a video about it, and then post it on a learning environment that you created, or into the wild on YouTube maybe. Or maybe you can ask them to tweet about it. If you log on to this site, bring your own device, applications for ELT, you will see loads of or tons of applications that are available for teachers. I don't have the time today to cover all of these applications, so I'm giving you the site. If you visit the site, you will see tons of applications and some sort of introduction as to how to use them, right? So I think this link is quite useful for you. We have some cautions to talk about before using them. Obviously, we don't all have the same mobile phones, so compatibility is an issue. Some applications on iOS, for example, are not available on Android. All right, we have to see what kind of applications are downloadable by most of the students, and if some students have, for example, iOS, and if the application is not downloadable on iOS, then we can ask a student who has an Android device to share his or her device with his classmates. Cost is another issue. There are loads of apps that are free, but there are also ones that are that you need to pay a fee for them. There are also applications that are called freemium, right? Freemium means some aspects of the applications are for free, but for some other functions, you need to pay an amount of money to access those functions. Installation is also a problem. Obviously, we're not going to transform our classrooms into a mobile classroom, but we're just going to use some spare time or some part of our lessons for mobile activities to maybe promote mobile learning in and outside the classroom. Therefore, in order not to take too much of the class time, it's a good idea to ask students to install these devices beforehand, before coming to class. And obviously, as it is the case with any technological device, you might encounter some problems when carrying out your activities. In those cases, make sure that you know about the application and how to shoot some common problems. For example, get the phone number of the person responsible for the internet connection or technical matters in your school, so that you can tackle maybe more major troubles that you might face. Now let's have a look at some discussion starters and warm-up activities which can be done through mobile phones or mobile devices. For example, clicker and polling apps such as Socrative, Kahoot, and Soapbox. These can provide a brief introduction to your lessons. And they can also provide a quick review of the material that's been covered in previous lessons. You can also check your students' understanding or ask a question, and maybe check or elicit your students' prior knowledge about it. If you need more lengthier responses, because Socrative, Kahoot, and Soapbox only allow for short responses or selected responses, you can actually use Google Forms for more open-ended and longer responses. We also have WordPress, Blogger, EduBlogs, Wikispaces, and EduHub. These can be used to share information, right? That, for example, you might assign some research to your students and then ask them to publish it on these applications. Moreover, as we said, even though most of the smartphones have an inbuilt function of note-taking, you can actually ask the students to take notes on some of these Evernote, Microsoft OneNote, or Google Docs and save it on the cloud. All right. All of these can be used to start conversations. All right. As I said before, you can ask them to download these. If they haven't come across these before, you can ask them to actually explore their functions, make notes of them on Evernote, for example, and then ask them to, for example, tweet their ideas or publish their ideas on YouTube. Okay, yeah, it's cool. Just one, I guess. Grammar and vocabulary. Let's have a look at these. We have Grammar-Polis for English grammar. This application provides for game-based activities. If you have a few minutes to spare in your classroom, then you can actually ask your students to log on to the application and do some grammar-based activities. For vocabulary exercise, you can use Quizlet, and for game-based questions or grammar, vocabulary, and spelling, you can use Johnny's Grammar World Challenge, which is hosted by British Council, actually. For phrasal verb practice, you can use phrasal card application. Sorry about that. All right, you can use Anki and Memrise to do some spaced repetition, automatic syncing, because the device is possible, so it actually allows for collaborative learning. And lastly, in this respect, you can actually use H5P to create interactive grammar and vocabulary exercises, or you might assign your students to create their own interactive vocabulary exercises. For reading and writing, you can use WordPress, Blogger, and Typepad and Tumblr for blogging or reading, comparing, and commenting on certain things that you assign them. You can use Needs and Levels app, all right, for reading at different levels of difficulty. It also allows for the video option, so it's also good for listening. You can use social media such as Facebook and Twitter for writing practice. You tweeting or tweeting a summary. What did you do last week? Describing people or events, depending on the things that you're covering in your classroom. WhatsApp, SMSs, Facebook Messenger, WeChat, Telegram, and Snapchat can all be utilized as writing tools as well. For example, like creating a story or a dialogue. 6-word memoirs can be used to summarize a reading or an experience that the students have come across to. For listening and speaking, we also have some apps. For example, videos on YouTube, podcasts, and other online video services allow for this. Needs and Levels app, as I said in the previous slide, also allows for audio recordings or provides audio recordings at different levels. We have voice and video recording applications to practice presentations, assign dialogues, classroom skits, or to carry out some interviews. And they can also be utilized for later study reflection or transcription, maybe. Woki can be used to create, or you can ask the students to create some animated characters engaged in dialogues, actually, in this one. As it's the case with everything that should be utilized in the classroom, it necessitates training, right? So if you want to use any of these applications in your own teaching, if you want to add them into your teaching repertoire, it's a good idea to get the necessary training. You can train by yourself by trying things out, obviously, but there are professional networks, local workshops, and some online resources that you can use. Okay. Goodwin and Jones actually summarizes some best practices about using a mobile device in the classroom. These are, first of all, do it yourself, right? Have a clear understanding of its usage and availability. See whether it's available, use it, and in that way you will have a better idea of how you can utilize this application, where you can integrate in your lessons. The second one is to avoid cyberloafing, which is doing something not related to the course content using your mobile devices. So to avoid cyberloafing explicitly, call for devices to be taken out, right? Ask students to bring them into the lesson, take them out, and at the end of the activity, just ask them to put it away. The third best practice that was mentioned by Goodwin and Jones is to keep it short, right? Keep the activities with mobile devices short. Obviously, you're not going to use them for 40 or 50 minutes, but show your students that mobile devices are not only for gaming, or only for social media, or only for communicating in the mother tongue, right? That they can also be utilized as learning devices. And in order to keep them motivated, right? And in order to stay in time in your classroom, you make sure that you do not assign them overly complex materials, right? So, as a final thought, I believe that mobile devices can be utilized in the classroom, all right? You can find a part of your lesson that you can integrate these. And I think it's also a good idea to use mobile devices in the classroom. They already have it with them, right? So they bring it themselves. So if something is in the classroom, it can be utilized as a learning and teaching tool. So why not use mobile phones? Here are my references. And if you have any questions, I am here to answer them. Thank you very much for being with me in this session.
Thank you. Before passing to the QA session, could you please open your cameras so that we can take a family photo?
Oops. Stop sharing.
Yes.
I'm here.
By the way, thank you very much for this
Ahmet
very
Hocam.
informative and fruitful.
Hello.
I can see Ahmet. Yes, hello, Ahmet.
Hello.
Let me take the photo. So be ready. One more time. Okay, now it is for you, my QA managers, for the question and answer session. I think we have 2 questions and we still have 5 minutes so that we can manage it. Yes, go guys.
First question. Which is the best platform to enhance online teaching and assess?
Can I get the question again? What is the...
Which is the best platform to enhance online teaching and learning process?
Well, there are a great number of platforms and you can utilize all of them for your teaching. But the most important thing is you should know about them. That's the one thing. You should know that it is out there. You should know how to use it and use it in the correct way and place, right? If you can do this, then all of these apps can be used for classroom practices. And as there is no best methods, there is no best application, or there's no best device that I can tell you that you should use in your classroom. Just you try to use things that works in your classroom, right? That's the most important thing, because you should be able to utilize in such a way that they should foster learning, and they should foster some experiences, foreign language, in which the students can use the foreign language, right? That's the most important thing. Other than that, even the notepad on the mobile phones is a suitable and efficient device.
The second question comes from Sezen Arslan. She says, Dear Ceyhun, thanks a lot for this fruitful presentation. I just would like to ask whether the amount of L1, in our case it is Turkish, that you use has changed or not during the online courses you conveyed with your students. This is more of a general question related rather than online apps in classroom. I mean, did L1 use increase or not?
Well, luckily, all right, in my case, I have some methodology classes and a speaking class. In the speaking class, the students are not allowed to speak Turkish anyway, but only the ones that are less proficient just produce 1 or 2 sentences when they start, or they switch to L1 when they forget the meaning of a word. But that's it. Other than that, everyone is speaking English, and fortunately, maybe it might be a case specific to me, but the amount of L1 used in my classes is no different from my traditional classes. So in that case, the L1 use has not increased in my or during my online sessions. But I do one thing. I have a trick about it. At the end of each session, I allow for a 2-minute L1 use after we finish off the whole session. So if students have some points that they would like to share or things that they haven't understood, even if I have told them for 2 or 3 times, then I give them a minute or 2 to express or ask their questions in Turkish in their L1. But during the 50 or 100-minute sessions, the L1 use is minimal. Because the lesson is speaking English, so they speak English, basically. When it comes to playing games.
So, Dr. KARABIYIK, I think we have just less than a minute. So I think we need to close the session. Although I have a question from my dear friend Ahmet, I need to stop it. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
If you guys have more questions, send me an email or just call me.
Yes, they have the number. They can go mobile.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So the microphone is on you, ALEYNA.
Okay, thank you one more time for joining us and sharing our excitement today. Our special thanks go to Dr. CEYHUN KARABIYIK and hope to see you again. Please follow us on Instagram, EduELT for the updates. Bye for now.
It's been an honor to be here. Thank you very much for being with me here in this session. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye-bye. Tell my greetings to a dear relative.
Will do so.
And Iran too.
Sure, okay.
All right.